Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores. A lot of information coming out today. First of all, let's go ahead and get it out the way that Bevel, one of my favorite options to become our offensive coordinator, most notably for Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Sam Howell, he already declined to interview with us, with the Jets. Anybody that wanted to interview him, he's going to stay in Miami for at least another year, which does make me sad, but it is what it is. But the main reason we're here is that the Commanders are interviewing current QBs coach Ken Zampese for the offensive coordinator opportunity that's open right now. So, of course, we got to dive into whether or not this is a good or a bad idea. And, of course, this is Rico's Street Scores. We're going to dive into both. We're going to take a look at why this could be a good idea, why this can also be a bad idea, and then also some good and bad history from Ken Zampese. Like, where did he come from? I know he's been on the Commanders for a couple of years, but I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all don't exactly know what he did before he came to the Commanders. So we're going to dive into all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every Sunday for the Street Scores live stream, off-season live stream. We'll be streaming during playoff games, watching them together. We'll talk everything Commanders. Sam Howell is franchise quarterback, next offensive coordinator, draft, free agency, mock drafts, all of that type of stuff, man. Make sure you pull up, and I'll always have the phone lines open for y'all to call in and you give your opinions, or you talk about whatever you want to talk about, ask whatever questions you may have. So make sure you pull up every Sunday for the Street Scores off-season live stream. And again, I have so much content to get out to y'all. I officially have my mock draft finished. I just need to go ahead and get that out to y'all. I watched all my tape and everything, and I'm ready to go. So make sure you stay on the lookout for that video as well, maybe later on tonight. Without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so this all started when Jeremy Fowler of ESPN tweeted, "Commanders are set to interview their quarterbacks coach, Ken Zampese, for the offensive coordinator job today per source. Falcons QBs coach Charles London should be in later this week." So there you go. There are some confirmed interviews. Pat Shermer has already been interviewed. Ken Zampese has been interviewed soon. And Charles London will be interviewed later this week. Those are 3 confirmed interviews. Everybody else, there's either been a request or they've expressed interest. But those are the only 3 confirmed interviews that we have down for sure right now. Remember, Bevel's interview was requested and then he eventually declined today, and Eric Studsville, his interview was also requested, but nothing's been scheduled. Just to give you an update on where we are as far as offensive coordinators as of right now. But going back to Ken Zampese, remember the Commanders are interviewing quarterbacks coach Ken Zampese for their open offensive coordinator position today. Zampese has been with the Commanders since Ron Rivera hired him to the staff in 2020 when he first got here. Zampese has been coaching in the NFL since 1998 when he was an offensive assistant with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he has spent time with the Packers, Rams, Cincinnati Bengals, and the Cleveland Browns. Zampese has 2 seasons of experience being an offensive coordinator in the NFL, though. He was promoted to the role with the Bengals after spending 13 seasons as the team's quarterback coach, and at the college level, he was an offensive coordinator for Northern Arizona in 1995. Prior to joining Washington, Zampese spent time in the Alliance of American Football as the Atlanta Legends offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach in 2019. He was also the quality control assistant for the University of Florida. And even more random, as a receivers coach with the Rams in 2001, Zampese helped Torrey Holt earn his 2nd Pro Bowl as the wideouts position coach. He also worked with the Hall of Fame receiver Isaac Bruce, who caught 64 passes for 1,160 yards and 6 touchdowns that season. So a little bit of random history right there. Now let's get into the negatives first before we get into the positives, because I feel like we want to end the video on a positive note. Well, first of all, I mean, from what I'm hearing from anybody that's trustworthy and that knows Zampese well and things like that, whether it be from the Bengals, whether it be people from inside the Commanders organization, a lot of them are saying that they don't really like the idea of Zampese. If we're going into this offensive coordinator search, and at the very least, your main question that you have in the back of your head when you're interviewing these guys, are you going to be better than what we got from Scott Turner? Zampese is a guy where you're not even necessarily sure. I mean, there may be even somewhat of a regression as far as play calling goes. Ken Zampese does have his positives, which we're going to get to, but as far as play calling and the things he's done as an offensive coordinator, he may honestly be worse than Scott Turner. Now, who knows? We'll talk about it soon though, but maybe he's learned his lesson from his previous history as an offensive coordinator, and maybe he'll do better in the future. But based off of what we know so far up to this point in his career, he may be a regression. He may be a step back from Scott Turner, which really scares me. And what really scares me is that he's such an easy promotion, because I'm pretty sure he really wants the job and would love to get it. Whereas Pat Shurmur, you're probably competing for his services. You're competing for Charles London, who is the main reason why the Falcons had a top run game this past season, and then the Bears had it for a few years while he was there with them, with Tariq Cohen and those guys. Everywhere he goes, they immediately become a top 5 rushing offense at the very least. And that just sounds like something Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew clearly covet. But we're also competing with other teams trying to fight for Charles London. Whereas I feel like Ken Zampese is kind of like, oh, Pat Shurmur said no, Charles London said no, all of these other guys said no. We might as well just go with Ken Zampese for now. So that's what I'm worried about, because I don't feel like they even love him. Because if they loved him, they wouldn't have even taken the time to interview these other guys for real. It seems like we started to interview Ken Zampese soon after getting no's from several people, or we requested to interview some guys and we haven't heard back. And it was like, well, I mean, we got an open schedule. We might as well interview somebody. That's what it feels like. It may not exactly be that, but I definitely don't feel like they're in love with Ken Zampese and his potential as an offensive coordinator for this team. Especially, I mean, I think Rivera is going to actually do his best job of hiring a really good offensive coordinator. I feel like a head coach should already do that every season, every time this opportunity presents itself anyway, but he has to know that his job is on the line this upcoming season. He's probably coaching for his career this upcoming season with a new owner coming in, and I'm doing a video on that pretty soon. Who knows who's going to be able to stay here? The new owner may want an entirely new staff from top to bottom. Even Jason Wright as the team president may not be safe, let alone Ron Rivera as head coach and Martin Mayhew as GM, and whoever defensive coordinator they want it to be, whatever. So Ron Rivera already knows this upcoming 2023 season is a big audition, and hiring the right offensive coordinator that's perfect for developing Sam Howell, putting up points in NFL games, hopefully averaging like 30 points a game, and winning games and going to the playoffs is going to be huge for Ron Rivera's case to stay with this team with the new owner. So I feel like Ron Rivera is going to do everything he can to hire the best guy possible. And again, the fact that they just pretty much skipped over Ken Zampese, where he's already in the organization, it would be very easy to promote him. I'm worried about that. But also, again, from what I'm hearing around the league, a lot of people like what he does as far as developing guys and getting a lot of his quarterbacks, but they don't think that he's a good play caller. And then you even have a Bengals reporter that tweeted back in 2017, as soon as Ken Zampese got fired by the Bengals, he noted that the Bengals offense, number one, haven't scored a touchdown in 2 games, and then number 2, Andy Dalton, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions with a 47 passer rating in those past 2 games as well. So he went out on a terrible note with the Bengals, absolutely terrible note. But now we're not just going to completely bag on him. Let's go look at some of the positives. Well, first of all, I feel like one of the main reasons he ended up in this organization anyway is because his dad is Ernie Zampese, who worked with Joe Gibbs and Don Coryell. And remember, Ron Rivera was trying to bring that Eric Coryell offense over here through Scott Turner and all of that type of stuff. Remember, North Turner learned under Don Coryell and all of that type of stuff. So that's all of that big connection. Scott Turner, Ken Zampese, a little bit of nepotism there, but it is what it is. Either way, I mean, one positive is that he does have around 30 years of coaching experience, 20 in the NFL, and he's been everywhere. I mean, wide receivers coach, QBs coach, offensive coordinator, passing game coordinator, just about everything that you can do. And remember, he coached Baker Mayfield to arguably his best season. That was the season that Mayfield set a rookie record for most touchdowns in a season by a rookie. Also, he made Kitna the comeback player of the year. He led Andy Dalton to 3 Pro Bowls, and I know a lot of people don't feel like Andy Dalton's even that good, so he got the best out of Andy Dalton most of the time that he was there, except for right before he got fired, of course. But that could be some blame on Ken Zampese. There can also be a lot of blame on Andy Dalton. And then also, he coached Carson Palmer into 2 Pro Bowls. I believe Andy Dalton also set a rookie for completions and yards for a rookie quarterback as well. Like, he's gotten some greatness out of some quarterbacks, but that's not necessarily the problem. But just to go back, Carson Palmer in 2023, Andy Dalton in 2011, 3,398 yards, 20 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, Pro Bowler. Baker Mayfield in 2018, 3,725 yards, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and offensive rookie of the year. Again, that was arguably Baker Mayfield's best year. That was the year where we were looking at Baker Mayfield like, okay, first overall pick. Because remember, heading into the draft, not many people thought Baker Mayfield would go number 1 overall. And then we were questioning the Browns for doing it. And then by the end of his rookie season, we were like, oh, okay, maybe the Browns are on to something. And then Ken Zampese, the year immediately afterwards, leaves the Browns, and then Baker Mayfield has these on and off seasons, and then his career spiraled out of control, and now he's on the Rams after making a stop in Carolina and all kinds of chaos. So Ken Zampese was when Baker Mayfield was at his best. So that could bode very well for Sam Howell. Still don't know about him as a play caller, but as far as being a developmental guy for Sam Howell, that's huge. And Rivera and Mayhew already said, or at least it was reported from somebody close to the organization, that they're already approaching defensive coordinators in the job interviews about what is your plan for Sam Howell. How are you going to develop him? How are you going to design an offense around him? How are you going to call plays for him? And how are you going to get the most out of him and all of that type of stuff? How are you going to take this relatively raw quarterback with loads of talent, rocket arm mobility, and design the best offense for him to succeed? And then another positive for Ken Zampese. Again, he's been here for a couple of years, so he knows our system very well, inside out. Whatever Scott Turner tried to run, whatever Ron Rivera wants to run. I mean, Ken Zampese knows better than anybody outside of his organization as of today exactly what Ron Rivera wants to do, because he's been there in every meeting, and Ron Rivera probably arguing back and forth with Scott Turner. Scott Turner wants to pass more, Ron Rivera wants to run more, and things like that. Ken Zampese has been there for every step of the way and knows exactly what Ron Rivera wants and what he doesn't want. Also, Ken Zampese knows Sam Howell. He's the QB's coach, and Sam Howell is a young 5th-round rookie quarterback that's been here for less than a year. Ken Zampese has had his hand all over Howell in his development so far throughout the season, even though he only got to start one game, but that's a whole nother debate. Ben told y'all he should have started since Carson Wentz got hurt against the Bears going into the Packers game, but hey, it is what it is at this point. But either way, we have to give Ken Zampese at least a little bit of credit for how good Sam Howell looked against the Cowboys. And again, as far as Scott Turner goes, again, he may be a step back from Scott Turner when you really look at it from the outside looking in, but at the end of the day, he knows exactly what Scott Turner did wrong and what Ron Rivera didn't like about what Scott Turner didn't do or what he did do, and he knows exactly what to fix, especially going in for the interview. He knows exactly the right things to say in this interview, which also scares me because, again, I'm not a big Ken Zampese as offensive coordinator fan. I like him as a QB's coach, but as an offensive coordinator, that frightens me. And I'm really afraid of the fact that when he goes into the interview, it's reported that it's today, that he's going to have all of the right answers for Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera's going to be like, oh my Lord, it's like he read my mind type of thing. I'm really afraid of that. That man going to wear the exact right suit. The suit that Ron Rivera wanted Cam Newton to wear when he benched Cam Newton. I mean, he's going to do the whole thing. I'm pretty sure he's going to come with Ron Rivera's favorite coffee to the interview, and I'm scared, man. He's about to kill that interview. Very frightened by that. And yeah, man, like I already said, Tom Pelissero came out and tweeted, the Dolphins passing game coordinator / QB's coach Darrell Bevell informed the Jets and Commanders he's declining an interview for their offensive coordinator jobs per sources. Bevel is well respected and figures to have other opportunities in this cycle, but as of now, he plans to stay in Miami. So that definitely hurts. I definitely wanted Darrell Bevell based on his history, even though he was the guy that didn't run the ball with Marshawn Lynch in the Super Bowl and pretty much lost the Super Bowl for the Seahawks against the Patriots. Everything else he's done has actually been pretty fantastic, especially as far as developing quarterbacks. If you think Ken Zampese has a really good track record of developing quarterbacks, Darrell Bevell is even better. And what he did with the Miami Dolphins with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, 2 of the top 7 receivers and receiving yards this past season, I can only imagine what he could have done with Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, but sadly that will not happen, at least this hiring cycle. Maybe we can get him next year, who knows? New owner, potentially new head coach, we'll see. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Of course, man, please let me know how you feel about Ken Zampese. Do you want him? Do you not want him? Do you agree with a lot of my points? Do you have any additional points that I didn't talk about today? And of course, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I really appreciate y'all, and I'm gonna catch y'all later with a mock draft. I'm out. Let's get it.